Hello my science friends and welcome back to my channel. Today for a very special and slightly different episode. Warning! This will be a lot more opinionated than usual, but if you clicked this video and saw the title, you're probably here for it. Grab a cup of coffee my friends, let's go. If you follow me on Twitter or are generally part of the science social media bubble, the recent commotion about the Lindau Nobel Laureate meeting this year is no big news to you. If you are not part of this circle, don't worry, you'll get all the details throughout the course of this video. To say something in a more general sense before we dissect this topic, I'm really glad that people are having these conversations. I do personally also share your anger and your frustration. This discussion, however, should not end in personal attacks or threats, so please, let's just stick to the facts. And a few of them are now coming your way, sprinkled with a little bit of my own experience and opinions. But first things first. What is this meeting everyone is talking about? The Nobel Laureate meeting is an annual event that is held in Lindau, which is a city in the south of Germany, where 30 to 40 Nobel Prize winners come together to meet around 600 younger generation scientists for an opportunity of exchange between different generations, cultures and disciplines, to quote their website. The annual meeting usually includes disciplines such as physics, chemistry, mathematics and physiology medicine. So how can people participate? The selection process is actually really competitive and has multiple steps. Generally, undergrads, PhDs and postdocs, with an age cap of 35, have to apply and then go through several rounds of application process before they have proven themselves exclusive and outstanding enough to go there and meet the bigwigs. Well, don't we all love matrix-based selection processes? Anyway, I'm not the one to talk. I've never wanted to go there, and I've also met some Nobel laureates outside of those realms. Okay, so those excellent scientists meet and they have lectures and workshops and seminars and panel discussions and they talk about science. Or do they? What happened at this year's meeting that caused all this fuss? Each year, these meetings tend to focus their program around broader topics. For example, last year, sessions were more in the context of significant challenges like climate change, the fossil fuel crisis, or the war in Ukraine. This year, the focus was chosen to be DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And apparently, some people were really unhappy about that. So what exactly happened? During a panel discussion on the topic of structural biology, the Nobel laureate Wüthrich, who won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2002 for his research on NMR methods to study biological macromolecules, used some of his time on the microphone to state his grievance about the meeting's DEI focus. Actually, we have footage of this, so here's Kurt sharing his thoughts.
It is clear from the way that the first day of this meeting went that science is not going to be the main subject, unfortunately. And this is unfortunately also reflected in the reports in the newspapers about this meeting. And specifically, there is an interview with our colleague Christine nuesslein-volhard, whom I have long admired for her scientific work, and the title is Man sollte vorsichtig sein, sonst kommt es zur Männerdiskriminierung. I have requested from the organizers that this interview, which appeared in German today in the newspaper, is translated and distributed to all the participants in this meeting as a supplement to what you learn all the time here about what science is not about. I must say that as a male scientist, I have a feeling of discrimination when I'm here in the climate that this meeting is being held. And I hope that you will get this article to read before the meeting is over.
Male discrimination. That's quite the statement. But that's not all that happened. After he finished, a probably very nervous young scientist went up to the audience mic and said the following. As a female researcher, it's been very uncomfortable for myself to see a Nobel laureate talking about so-called male discrimination. By the way, I'm reading this from an excellent science article written by Amanda Haidt, which I will put in the description box below for your reference. The moderator of the panel, Wolfgang Lubitz, then tried to cut her off by shifting the focus back to science, but our brave friend persisted and added the following. There might be individual discrimination towards men, but it is nothing compared to the systematic and structural discrimination that women have to face, especially in the STEM fields. And the audience applauded this. Kurt Wüthrich tried to persist with his point by holding up a copy of the recent newspaper which questions the use of gender quotas in STEM fields and warned against discrimination of men, to which the early career researcher pointed out the obvious gap in seniority and prestige that might lead to this perspective by saying, "She's a very extremely successful Nobel laureate. You could have asked any young female scientist how they are feeling," to even more applause from the audience. I wish I would have been there. This young scientist, who didn't want her name to be publicized and identified, stood up for us, females in STEM, that are facing this on an almost daily basis. My science friend, if you stumble across this channel, I want you to know how proud I am of you for standing your ground in the face of Nobel laureates and renowned professors trying to silence you. And for any of you wondering why she doesn't want to be named, this is probably really obvious for all non-male scientists. Her career would possibly be over and she would get so much hate and abuse online for this that her mental health would most likely also take a huge hit from this. I wouldn't want that for anyone, so I am complimenting her for making that decision. Crunching the numbers. Much better. Alright. So we know now what exactly happened in that small city in Germany. But why is this making such big news? I'll set the whole scene a bit into perspective for you. Diversity, equity and inclusion remains a huge topic in the natural sciences. Let's just focus on gender diversity for now, as this was the source of this comment, I believe, and look at the Nobel Prize alone. To this day, there have been 615 prizes awarded to 989 laureates. Often the prize is shared by up to 3 people. 989 Nobel laureates, of which only 61 were female. That's a mere 6.2%. At this prestigious meeting in Lindau, 39 Nobel laureates attended, 5 of which were female. That's only 12.8%. The notorious panel during which those words were said consisted of 4 panel laureates, all male, and 1 moderator, also male. That's a concerning 0% of females. Why is this worrying? First up, let's assume Kurt Wüthrich had a message with a very different meaning at its core, which was packaged in the wrong words and spoken out in the wrong context and setting. That Christiane nuesslein-volhard wanted to bring a point across that supports females in STEM and not belittle them by focusing on quotas and numbers. I really do want to believe that and give people the benefit of the doubt. Still, what remains is a misogynistic statement. Kurt Wüthrich, a Swiss chemist who studied at the University of Bern, has a PhD from the University of Basel, currently runs 3 labs across the globe, in Switzerland, the US and China, a white skin-colored cis male born in the late 30s. That's probably as much privilege as you're gonna get in life. Or the moderator, Wolfgang Lubitz, a German chemist, studied and habilitated in Berlin, was the managing director of the world-known Max Planck Institute, where he still is director emeritus, also a white skin-colored cis male, born in the late 40s. You get where I'm going with this. And I'm not listing this to start a personal attack against them or tokenize them for my point, although maybe then they would understand how that feels. I'm saying this because when you come from such a privileged background, you should not complain about male discrimination. The past, well, even the current system and structure of the scientific world are in their favor. I get it. We all have biases, but I would highly recommend the members of this panel to check theirs before making such statements. Harvard University has a great implicit association test to check that in various ways. I'll post the link below if you're interested. The worst point, however, is the representation of this. Nobel laureates are known worldwide. They are as famous as scientists will ever become. They have influence. And instead of using their platform, their reach to push change for the better, they choose, well, this. German-speaking chemists, like me, are represented by this. Scientists are represented by this. This is in the news. I only hope that this incident shows people how necessary the debate about diversity really is, how much we need this conversation to happen still, how much change there is yet to come. To paraphrase the words of a different young researcher who attended this meeting, we are criticizing the system, not the people personally. But if they take it personal, if the shoe fits, what does that tell you about their view where diverse scientists really fit in? And just a side note on the topic of diversity. You can take a wild guess for yourself how many attending Nobel Laureates were people of color. I'll link the page of this year's attendees below so you can find out for yourself. Apart from that, this is not the first time that there were controversial statements made at one of those annual meetings. These meetings have a code of conduct, which the female researcher actually referenced in her statement. The decision is yet to be made if this was violated by that. Personally, I have experienced a lot of discrimination, harassment and abuse in professional settings as a female in STEM. Statements like these are shocking, but for anyone with a diverse background in a STEM career, not really surprising. Tokenism, red tape, glass ceilings, it is a daily occurrence. But I'm not sharing this for your pity, but to show you how important it is to work towards change. To hold people accountable for their statements and beliefs. And let this be a warning of how people may react if the tiniest bit of privilege or focus of attention gets taken away from them. Don't let this discourage you from making the world a better place for all of us and to rebuild the trust in a diverse and equal scientific community. And with that, I'll see you in my next video. Until then, stay sciencey.